Kia ora koutou. Welcome to another adventure with the boys on South Pacific Muscle. And today we've got a guest who hails from the mighty Kapiti Coast. And I've got to say, Kapiti Coast has certainly put out more than its fair share of bodybuilders. My flatmate Lance is from there. He's a great bodybuilder. And also, of course, Big Kiwi dwell down those ways. So I always used to love my trips down to Wellington and pop into the Kapiti Coast and have a catch up with Big Kiwi. Our guest Ryan, he has been lifting since age 17. He's the ripe old age of 26 now, so he's still got many, many years ahead of him. But he's achieved a fair few things along the way. He was a junior powerlifting champion. He's got a number of records there, both as a junior and as a over 140 lifter. Under 140 lifter. He was 2017 NABA WFF Mr New Zealand at age 23, so a real young gun to hit a national title there. And of course, those that follow IFBB, 2019 Wellington show, fantastic show too. We had a lot of size on that stage, and overall winner there was Ryan. So welcome, Ryan. Glad to have you on board.
Thank you. It's good to be here for a chat.
Yeah, good. It's good to see you, man. Hey, look, let's just talk a bit about your background and what got you into lifting. Perhaps some of the early years of lifting. How did it all kick off?
I've always been, even when I was younger, I've always been a big guy. I was always bigger than everyone else my age, and I played a lot of sports and stuff like that, and always had a bit of an interest in kind of muscle and being big. And it was actually my older brother that was right into his rugby, and he dragged me into the gym, managed to pull me off my PlayStation one day when I was probably about 15 and get me into the gym. And at the time, I didn't really like it, didn't really think too much of it. But as I kind of got to the age of about 16, 17 and realized actually I'm quite good at lifting heavy things and I quite enjoy it and it makes me feel quite good. So I ended up going to a public gym for the first time. And the first day in there was approached by a trainer and asked how many bodybuilding shows I'd done. And I said, mate, I'm 17. This is probably the second time I've ever set foot in the gym. And he kind of couldn't believe it. So pretty much offered to train me and prep me for a show. And then that was it. That was the beginning of the end. So, yeah.
When was that? When was your first show? What year was that?
2012. So it was my final year in college. And I did my first show for the IFBB in Wellington show, and I was in the teenage grade, and I think I was on stage at about 92 kilos. But it wasn't incredibly lean, but it was still not too bad for a teenager. So
how tall are you, Ryan?
I'm 6 foot. 6 foot, or just 6 foot. We'll claim 6 foot.
Wow, 92 kilos in your first show. I think I was about 74 in my first show, Mike, and I'm a little bit shorter than you. Mike, what were you sitting at?
I was 102, but I'm 6'2".
Yeah.
And I've been training for 6-7 years. So
yeah, none of us were 17 at the
time. Yeah, so I think I had about 4 months of training under the belt by the time I got on stage for the first time, and that was it. I was in love with the sport and basically stopped playing everything else, playing rugby, basketball, all of that. That all went out the door, and it was full time in the gym. So
genetic freak.
How heavy were you in the last one? How heavy were you for the Wellington show?
Wellington show 2019. I was on stage at 116.5 kilo.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
You can see. I had a good chat to Jordan a while back and asked what you'd been up to, and I said, "Where's he? Where's he at?" And I said, "Look, if there's one guy that I see that should be a pro bodybuilder based on what they've got, it was you." And I said to Jordan, "Look, to be honest, Ryan's the one guy in the country I don't want to be on stage next to." So there you go, bro.
Thank you.
So tell us about your powerlifting, your early powerlifting days. How did that work?
Powerlifting, essentially I've only ever competed for fun, really, for a bit of a laugh. I've never done a powerlifting prep or any powerlifting style training. It's always been bodybuilding based training, and have just competed in the powerlifting when I was kind of at the peak of my off season for bodybuilding, for just, you know, something to do.
And still set New Zealand records.
Yeah, yeah. So I competed. I think it was my final year that I could compete as a junior for the GPC, and I set all three of the records in that, and in the total. And then I didn't compete again for about 2 years, and then last year I competed for the GPC again and set, I think it was the total record, which was 917.5 kilo for the total. And I think I set the bench and the deadlift as well, but not quite the squat.
Come on, man. We love the numbers. Give us the numbers,
man. What did you get?
The bench, I off the top of my head, I think the bench was 227.5 was what I set. I was going for 240 on the day, but I had a bit of a dodgy elbow and I didn't quite get there. And the deadlift, I think I pulled 335, which set that record as well. But I'm pretty sure I did 355 for the squat on the day. I think I missed that by about 2.5 kilo.
Wow.
Yeah.
Nice work. Hey, and then obviously 2017 was a big year, taking your first national title. How did that go? What sort of weight were you at? How were you in terms of condition and things like that?
I think 2017, when I took that Mr Nebba whiff or Mr Nebba title, that was probably the leanest and best package I've managed to bring to stage. I don't think I've ever quite managed to get that same level of conditioning again. I think I was about 100, maybe 110, 111 on stage at the time. So I did the Wellington Nebba whiff and then went straight to the nationals. And then after that, that was, in my head, I was done. And that was my, for the year anyway. And actually got a few messages from a few people at the IFBB after about 2 days of eating everything in sight and asking me to come compete at the Hamilton show and then do the nationals. And I was like, I'd just blown out and put on about 7-8 kilos in the space of 48 hours and had to try pull it back in. So I ended up doing those 2 shows as well, and I won the junior again at the Hamilton IFBB show, and then didn't quite manage it at the nationals, but gave it a good shot for what I could force my body to try and do.
Oh god, body mustn't know if it was after or after going in one direction and then the other.
Yeah. Really shock to the system.
Look, 2019 Wellington show was as I said earlier, was a fantastic show. I love going to shows where you've got a good solid class of heavyweights. It's kind of what I go to a show to see. As much as I love all the other classes and the other athletes, etc., and they get all my respect. Like, as you can see behind me, I'm a fan of the Olympia. I like the big boys. Wellington was a cool show because we got to see, I think there was you, Anthony, Paris.
Yep. Who else was there? I think it was Sean King was there possibly.
Yep.
There was definitely a lot of muscle on stage that day.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that was probably the most muscle that's been on a regional stage in a long time. It was a good day.
Yeah. So, going into that show, Anthony, as usual, was just peeled to friggin' pieces. Paris was fucking big as a house and, as wide as a house. And you were just thick as anything, man. What was it like on stage with those, finally, I guess, footing it with some athletes that were, at your level?
That was one of the first times I've been on stage with someone or a few people that were kind of just as big as I was.
Yeah.
So that was, in itself, was an awesome experience, really. I think on the day, actually, Mo asked us when we were up on stage, and Paris was 114.5 kilo and I was 116.5. So we were that close, So it was an awesome battle on stage and a lot of fun posing next to someone who I was genuinely thinking this guy is going to outmass me if I'm not careful. So, you know, which I'd never really had on stage before.
Yeah.
So it was cool. It was good fun.
Oh, awesome. Hey, man, look, hopefully we see more battles like that going forward, but that'll be really cool to see a bit more of that.
We'll see.
Yeah, it's been a while, you know, and it's always nice when you see that. Hey, I really want to have a quick look at your Insta because there's some pretty amazing lifting been going on lately, and you know, I sort of my eyes popped out of my head at a few things, so I won't spoil it. I'll bring that Insta up, and we'll have a nosy at that. Righty-ho. Here we've got Ryan's page, Ryzilla94. So if you're not following him and you want to see some pretty freaky off-season training, jump on board. So I've got to have a look at this. This is from the other day.
This one's from tonight. I've just come from this session now.
It's 7.
Yeah, man, 7 big wheels. Oh God! No, that's off the hook.
Slowly building my way back up.
Yeah, man, it's really impressive. Really impressive.
Thank you.
Nice. And I see that you've picked up a new training partner, Ryan.
I have indeed, and he is an absolute monster.
I saw the guy. He is a man mountain.
Yeah.
What's his background? Is he a powerlifter or?
He has pretty much always done powerlifting style training, and essentially we had a conversation where he basically said he's never had a problem being the biggest guy in the room, as you can see by by how big he is. Yeah. But he's never been, he's never been kind of cut or in that kind of shape of a bodybuilder, and he's really keen to get into that kind of shape. So there he is there, the monster himself. So Big Mike, he's 175 kilos at the moment, or he was when we first started training. And he, like I say, just really keen to get into some bodybuilding style training, and cut some weight down. So I was like, perfect. I've found someone who basically I'm now chasing him to try and keep up with the weights he presses, and he wants to lean out. So it worked in perfectly.
Nice. And if anyone's looking for a bad man in a movie on a motorcycle, can you imagine those arms hanging off a set of ape hangers? Be my nightmare. Right. So decent benches. Yeah, I want to have a look at your dumbbell presses because they here we go. What are the 62 kilo dumbbells, eh?
Yeah, 62s. The heaviest we've got.
They're doing cardio.
Come down to Olympic, we go up to 80s.
80s for. I'm trying
to lift them
to get some 70s.
Right. Well, I think it's well established that you're the strongest man we've had on board recently. But is this, how far back is that photo?
That is, I think, last week Thursday.
Wow.
So like I say, I'm kind of back about 4 weeks or 4 weeks back into training regularly again after about 3 months of kind of training once a week, or once, maybe twice a week if I was lucky. But that muscle memory kind of just bouncing back, so can't complain. Nice work.
Right, so we got to your Wellington show and what a highlight that was. Then you sort of disappeared off the scene. So do you want to give us a sort of an insight as to where you've been?
Yeah. I did the Wellington show and won the overall there, and was expected to go to the Nationals and essentially do the same there. And I think everyone was kind of waiting for me to walk on stage at the Nationals, and I never turned up. I honestly don't really know exactly what happened. It just kind of got to a point where after the Wellington show, that usual fire or drive that was there to push further and get more, the next level, it kind of stopped, and I struggled for the next kind of, I think there was about a 4 or 5 week gap between the two shows.
Yep.
And I really battled to stay on that grind of the diet, and I just decided that if I wasn't enjoying the prep at that point, then I'm not going to go get on stage, essentially to try and win a New Zealand title and go for a pro card if I don't feel like I was operating at 100%. So decided not to compete. I kind of went into a little bit of a shell and didn't tell anyone, didn't warn anyone that I wasn't going to be there. I just shut everyone out and removed myself from the bodybuilding world. And then just kind of disappeared, like you said. And I did try and start another prep for this year, for 2020. I was planning on doing the Wellington show. And then again, it was the same story. I started the prep and we started getting in shape and started making progress, and that drive just wasn't there. And I did get to a point where I kind of thought maybe I was done with bodybuilding, or the competing side of bodybuilding anyway. But we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Now, from chats Nathan and I have had, this was sort of more than just, I'm a bit sick of dieting or lost the fight. Because, I mean, we've all sort of been there and just sick of the grind. It was a bit more serious than that.
Yeah. At the start, it kind of, I think at the start I didn't really realize how much it was affecting me mentally. How much that kind of played a part in it. In my head, I was just thinking, I'm just not feeling it. It might just be one of those years and just not feeling it. I'll take a break and I'll come back to it. And it wasn't until probably the start of this year, when I did start coming back to it and starting that prep, that I realized, okay, there's something else going on here, on the mental side of stuff. And I just wasn't really in a headspace to put that kind of pressure on myself physically and mentally again. I'm the kind of person where I knew that I was expected to come in and be essentially the best on stage and be the best of the best there. And normally that I kind of feed off that, and I like to meet that expectation and still blow people away. And it got to a point where that pressure that I felt almost became too much, and I couldn't kind of handle that pressure. So instead of going and potentially disappointing people that are expecting me to be there and look amazing, I just disappeared instead.
Must be a tough call to sort of prioritise your own mental health over sort of others and your own expectations. Must have been a tough call to make, because a lot of people would soldier through and do sort of more damage to themselves.
Yeah, it was. It was actually a really tough decision to make. I sat on the fence about it for a long time and tried to battle through that kind of headspace I was in. For a few months, I tried to just keep pushing through, thinking, this is just prep, this is the grind, everyone goes through this. But it was, the difference in it was that I'd been through that grind, a dozen times before, and I just couldn't get back into that zone that I'd managed to get into a dozen times before. And it was a hard decision, because I felt like I was letting a lot of people down, because I knew that I was expected to be there and win the nationals and get my pro card. So it was, I felt almost embarrassed about it, that I couldn't kind of fulfill that expectation, so.
It's a really hard situation to be in, and I've heard a lot of the pros talking about that it becomes escalated when you're a professional, because you have so many people following you. But I mean, even that, being an amateur bodybuilder, as you say, you were the up and coming rising young star, and a lot of people had a lot of expectations. As what happens with bodybuilding, a lot of people blow smoke up your ass and tell you the next best thing. And with that comes a hell of a lot of pressure. And as you say, most people sort of shut down and keep it to themselves, as you did. But now, you're happy to talk about it, which shows that you're not only phenomenally strong throwing weights around, but you are a very mature young man, and you're mentally, you know, you're reaching out when you needed that support, and being very open about it, because there's a lot of young athletes coming up that will experience this. There's a lot of us, like myself. I've been through similar sort of situation. I had my own issues and my own demons, and you know, initially, like yourself, shut myself down very much, kept it to myself. And it wasn't until I was open and talked about it with other people that I actually found that my world became very different. And I think someone like you standing up and saying at such a young age actually blows me away, is actually a real phenomenal sort of a role model for younger guys that may experience this going forward, or even older guys that encounter this for the first time, that there's a lot of this out there in our sport.
Yeah. I think there's potentially more of it in the world of bodybuilding than people realize. You know, I know that all three of us know that even one bad workout can kind of send you into a little bit of a downward spiral some days. So my thing, you know, I spent maybe the first 3 or 4 months kind of in a shutting down basically, and I shut everything out and I tried to deal with it myself, and just got to a point where I realized that I wasn't getting any better, and you know, it was starting to get to a point where it was getting a little bit out of control. I went from training 5 or 6 days a week to training once a week. I'd walk into the gym and basically walk straight back out because there's something in my head just telling me I couldn't be there.
I've got to say, and I just want to reiterate, because I think this is a common one. I would actually drive to Club Physical in Auckland, park in the car park, have such bad social anxiety, I wouldn't even get out of the car. I'd turn the car on and back out and drive home.
Yep, and I literally did that last Wednesday. So
Yep.
you know, I still have the odd day, but
Yep.
just got to a point where it was like I have to do something about this because this isn't healthy. It's not good. You know, I was eating sometimes one meal a day. I went from about 129 kilos down to 116 in the space of about 6 or 7 weeks, and I've managed to bounce back up to about 127 now, in the space of about 3 weeks. So, you know, it's. Yeah, I guess I felt a bit of a weird responsibility being a younger, bigger guy that, you know, maybe some of guys younger than me kind of look up to me in some weird way. And I guess I kind of felt like if I can stand up and say that I'm not okay and I need help, then it might help others to do the same.
Cool, bro. Massive. It's fucking cool, bro. It's fucking
cool. And that was literally all it was. That was why I did a post on my Instagram, basically putting it out there that, you know, I've got diagnosed depression and experiencing anxiety for the first time in my life. And honestly, the amount of messages was countless that came through, and not only people offering support, but, you know, I had probably about a dozen young guys message me being like, seeing that has actually made me accept the fact that I'm going through something similar. So that alone was worth it. If I had one person that would message and you know, help them, then it was all worth it to me. So
we'll get on to sort of how you sort of dug yourself out of it and the support you had in a moment. I mean, we're looking to help those people watching, I guess, who are going through. Were there any sort of warning signs of it coming? Was there any sort of triggers, anything that people could kind of watch out for to sort of see themselves slipping into that mental state?
For me, there was no. That was the thing that kind of got me, was there was no real warning signs to the severity of how bad it got, and how fast it came. I think a big part of it, because I've obviously spent a long time trying to figure it out why it kind of happened to me. But I think a big part of it was when I didn't show at that nationals, and in my head my focus shifted from my whole life revolved around bodybuilding and eating my next meal and making sure I got good sleep, to kind of feeling like I felt lost after I had kind of made that decision. I'd spent 8 years with that being my sole focus, and then it was like, well, what am I doing now? You know, I'm just going to work and going to the gym and going home. There was no real goal anymore.
So would you say that the bodybuilding kind of covered up a little bit? So it sort of, you didn't have to think too much about where you were at because you just had one foot in front of the other with the next meal or the next training session.
Absolutely. I don't think the change from not being focused on bodybuilding is absolutely what caused it. I think that kind of just gave me something to focus on, so I didn't even have to think about or worry about anything else, because my only focus was food, training, and sleeping. So yeah.
Interesting. You sort of say that, and I guess, I kind of reflect, like, there's a lot of stuff that you're saying that I go, I know that feeling. And it was almost, I explain it to people like, I'd been lifting for 20 something plus years, maybe 25 years, and people knew me as Nate the bodybuilder. And after my injury, I did my rehab and I went, I'm never going to compete again. What am I going to do? And I guess that happens to a lot of people. You look at professional athletes, and they're known, their identity revolves around what they do. And when you take that away and you're no longer doing that, it's like, there's this big void in my life, and how do I fill it? But conversely, sorry, Ryan, I had another story and this is from 15, 20 years ago. A guy said to me that he was doing the same. He was eating one meal a day. He said I would have one pizza every day, and I wasn't training at all. And my doctor said to me, just find something, grab onto it, and focus on that while you work on getting better. And he said, all right, I'm going to get my pro card. So he went from one pizza a day and not training to picking his pro card up within a year and going on and competing in Europe on the professional bodybuilding circuit. So it's kind of it's a dual-edged sword, Sometimes it's a tool to help you. Other times it's
a Band-Aid.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is what you just said is literally exactly how I felt. Once I felt like I was done with bodybuilding, I kind of had this thought in my head that who am I? Bodybuilding was me. That's what I was known for. I was expected every year to turn up and be on that stage and kind of blow people away. If I wasn't doing that, then what was I doing?
Yeah.
So that was a big part of it. Just that lost feeling. And then really, because that focus on, bodybuilding, we all know is healthy in some ways and not in others. But I essentially shifted my focus from that to, I ended up slipping into other things that weren't, that were worse for me. And, I started drinking more and partying more and delving into other things that I shouldn't be doing. And that kind of took over because what else was I doing anyway? So yeah, it was, but stopping bodybuilding wasn't the cause of it, but it definitely made me more aware of what was going on in my head. Because
I had the space to reflect on it.
Yeah, exactly.
So obviously this is fairly common. I mean, as Nate and I've spoken, I've done a little bit of psychotherapy for the last sort of couple of years to try and get my head straight at the ripe old age of now 50, so it took me that long to get some help to sort my head out. So, I mean, it's so common. I mean, there's the Robin Williams of the old, even Luke Sandow we lost this year.
Yeah.
So it's really important that we kind of bring it out a little bit. And because this is actually a happy story, the story that we're telling right now, because you come out the other side. So we'll talk about strategy. Yeah, that's right. So how did that come about for you? I mean, did you read the right books, speak to the right people, get the right support?
Really, for me, I'm people who know me know that I'm not someone who, I don't stress over anything. I don't experience stress or anxiety. I'd be backstage at bodybuilding shows and I'd be the most relaxed guy there, So actually a big part of it for me was opening up and kind of putting it out there as on social media. And it actually helped me just to accept that it's okay to feel that way, rather than, I'm not someone, I don't like to ask for help, and that's why a big part of bodybuilding shined out for me, because no one can eat your food for you, no one can do your training for you, if you don't look the way you look, it's because you haven't been doing something you should have been doing. So when I kind of just put it out there and opened up about it, it made me relax in a way about how I was feeling, and kind of stopped trying to fight it in a way, and just kind of accept it, and then figure out how to now cope with it and live with it in a way. So for, I went to therapy for a little bit, and went and saw a counselor for a little bit. I think I went to about 4 sessions, and it was okay, but that counselor anyway probably wasn't for me. Counseling in general, I don't think is for me. So I ended up, which was I kind of always saw as a last resort, where I went to the doctors and ended up getting medication for it, which again, I have no shame in admitting. It does not bother me. I don't care. And I've recently started taking that probably about 3 weeks ago, and I honestly found that leveled me out big time. And you always I still have bad days. I still have days where I go to the gym and I walk in and I walk straight back out because my mind's not going to let me be there. But it's definitely improved, and just tried to refocus back onto eating good food and doing my training. I went through a bit of a space where I thought maybe it's time to ease off my body and downsize a little bit and give myself a bit of a break physically. And I did. I lost about 12 kilos in a not so healthy way. It was a mixture of deciding to do that, but almost using my depression where I wasn't eating and wasn't training as an excuse as well. It basically got down to essentially my stage weight that I was last year on stage. I got down to about 116.5 kilo, and I basically looked at myself and went, "This ain't it." Well, this isn't it. So I've refocused onto eating, refocused onto training. Started feeling good about how I looked again, and that again has been a massive improvement.
One thing I'd really pick up, because you're a very I guess exuberant's the word for it. You're very bubbly, very engaging, like Luke Sando, like Robin Williams, the life of the party. Really hard to pick who is struggling, and I think there's a really good campaign going on at the moment about asking your mates if they're okay and having these kind of conversations. So I guess if you've got a training partner, they're always a good person to check up if they're doing okay, and likewise they can check up on you, because they certainly spend probably as much time with you if you're a serious bodybuilder.
Yeah, absolutely. As we know, but we kind of forget, depression isn't something you can spot. It's not something that you can look at someone and you go, you can see it. So I think it's very important. Even the people that you think in your head, there's no way he's so happy or she's so happy and blah blah blah, there's no way. One little message can make a massive difference. And I have friends like Big Mike who I've been training with, and another friend of mine, DJ, and they will message me out of the blue just to check up on me and just ask how your day's going and stuff like that. And on bad days, something as stupid and little as that makes the difference. So, it's just, it doesn't have to be this big serious conversation. It just a simple little message to someone just can bring up your day. So
awesome. Hey, at the end of this, I will edit in a section for people that want help. But I guess, first and foremost, you've probably got a bunch of cool mates, and some of those people will understand. So, ask a friend, talk to a friend about it. If you need professional help, there's doctors and therapists, etc., all out there, and depression.org, etc. But I will put up some contact numbers so people can have a look at that. So we kind of got through, we got through this stuff, and now we're kind of in a rebuilding phase. I think you and I are probably in similar space at the moment. Heads are on, got our focus. We still have our bad days and our good days.
Yep, self-acceptance.
Absolutely,
self-acceptance, right?
Absolutely. So, Ryan, where we going, man? Want to know?
I knew this question was coming.
Yeah, bro.
I knew this question was coming. We shall see. I have a few plans in my head for where you might next see me, either on a lifting platform or maybe a bodybuilding stage. For now, I'm training to enjoy my training and eating a diet, basically eating a bodybuilding diet because I enjoy looking good and I enjoy feeling good.
Summer's coming, bro. Summer's coming.
Summer's coming. Exactly. And, you know, for me, you know, some people look at it in a vain way, but to me, if I look good, I feel good. So, and, you know, just because you look good doesn't mean you always feel good, but it plays a big part for me. So,
well, if you need some sun, bro, I've got to say, you know, I saw, I think it was Halton Bay. It's got sewage coming out under it, so that was a good spot. It's gone. But there's always a few bedrooms up here, bro, at Waimarama, if you ever want to come up and spend some time in Hawke's Bay.
Awesome.
But I'll wear a shirt on the beach if you're walking in a singlet.
Hey, any excuse to take my shirt off.
Yeah, bro. Awesome, man. Hey, look, I'm really looking forward to whenever you get on stage, and you know, whenever you do, it's on your own terms. This time, you're not going for anyone's expectations. It's all about when you're ready to do it.
Yep.
But equally, I am really excited to see you do some powerlifting too, because I've got to say, some of that, you know, your recent lifts for someone who's been back in training, serious training for in a matter of weeks rather than months is just kind of blows me away. And I kind of, you know, I just think this guy's made for lifting and bodybuilding. So it's really cool to see. I'm really stoked to see it. And it's really nice to have you back on board in the land of the living with the rest of us.
Yeah.
Not that we're trying to fire up a competition, but didn't Paris say he was going to try and get a 350 deadlift?
Did he?
Yeah, I think you mentioned that. So
we'll see who can
throw it out there.
My major goal for my squats actually is to match that famous video of Ronnie Coleman, where he squats 302.5 kilo for 2 reps. So that's what
baby.
You'll need to find a 20-year-old Inza powerlifting suit. So I can probably find you one. I'm not sure if it's your size, but I've probably got one tucked away there somewhere.
I'll squeeze into it. Yeah.
Hey, look, I want to thank you for coming and talking to us. You know, like, look, your lifting is phenomenal. Your bodybuilding is really cool. But what you did tonight kind of blew me away. I got a few tears in my eyes, bro. You might have seen that. Because it's very dear to my heart, this kind of thing. And I think it is an amazing message for a guy like yourself at such a young age, and being such a, you know, a person that was in the spotlight, to come out and say, hey, this is where I've been, and, you know, life's better on the other side. And even though I still have bad days, and it's okay to yell out. So huge kudos to you, bro, for that. More impressive than anything I've seen recently. So thank you very much for coming on. And
I appreciate it.
We'll be watching you. And for those people that want to follow a very, very cool guy, get on board with Ryzilla 94 and watch that progress.
And watch the stages next year, because we might be making an appearance.
I'd like to know in advance so that I'm not on that stage. Radio people, everyone have a good week's training. Stay safe out there, and we'll catch you next time.